not communism, none of those.
So classical economic theory, if you were to say what Adam Smith started off economics of the modern world, he believed that every individual doing what is best for them and being selfish, the opposite of altruism, is net positive for the ecosystem at large. So when you're talking about benevolence in capitalism, are you saying that the anomalies of capitalism or people who have done exceedingly well, they need to be benevolent in particular, or are you talking about society at large?
No, I think you're right. What Adam Smith said was the fact that you have bacon on your table is not because of the benevolence of the butcher. It is because of his own self-interest. However, while self-interest will drive every one of us to do what is best for ourselves, there are rules and regulations laid down by the government which ensures that I do not tread on your feet. I do not compromise the interest of the society. I pay my taxes properly. I follow every rule of the land. The moment I follow every rule of the land, the moment I am a good citizen, then I am absolutely free to maximize my profit. So that is the kind of equilibrium, economic equilibrium that you and I would want.
Do you have an opinion in particular about taxation, Murthy sir? I think many governments and we have precedent in the Western economies where someone like Richard Nixon maybe tweaked the tax rates multiple times. He realized that 20% is probably the kind of number where most likely will there be honest taxation where people are willing to pay that 20% and the incentive to circumvent that goes down. Do you think in the capitalistic society of today, India included, there is an appropriate level of taxation?
Well, we have to realize that India is a poor country. A per capita GDP of $2,300 puts us about twice the per capita GDP of what is called low-income countries by the United Nations and other bodies. We are still far away from being called a middle-income country where the per capita GDP is somewhere between 6,000 to about 12 to 15,000. You know it very well. Now, in a country like India, where there's a large mass of poor people, I think we, the evangelists of capitalism, must accept that we have to pay a higher level of taxation because there are so many public services that our government will have to provide for the poor people. You know, the other day the Prime Minister said that his government will provide free ration to 800 million people for the next 5 years. So what that really means is we have at least 800 million people who do not have the capacity to earn 2 meals a day. Now, it's partly their problem, but partly the problem of the society. Poor fellows, they would have tried hard, but they may not have been able to get jobs. So, in order to create efficient corruption-free and effective uh, public goods in our country, the taxation will have to be obviously higher than what you see in developed countries. So I personally would not at all grudge if I have to pay a higher level of taxation. I'm quite happy because it's only, I mean, Priyank is here, it's only people like him who will have to say, how is it, how can we provide the best services for the poor people? However, when you provide those services, when you provide those subsidies, there must be something in return that they are willing to do. For example, if you say, I will give you free electricity, then it would have been a very nice thing for the government to have said, but we want to see the percentage attendance in schools, in a primary schools and middle schools, to go up by 20%. Then only we will give you that. In other words, nothing should be given free, but there should be a contribution of the citizen also towards making our society a better society. So I think it's so therefore, while I am not against free services being provided, I fully understand. I also came from a poor background once upon a time. But I think we should expect something in return from those people who receive those free subsidies to take a slightly bigger responsibility towards making their future generation, their own future generation, their own children, their own grandchildren, better in terms of going to school, performing better, etc., etc. That's what I mean.
Just extrapolating on that same thought a bit further, if, like you said, let's say that GDP per capita number where things start to change drastically, in today's ecosystem, let's assume it's $5,000 per person. If you had to give three suggestions, three very definitive suggestions that could easily be implemented by the government that you think will go a long way towards helping this outcome, what would they be?
To enhance the GDP?
Take it to GDP of $5,000 per capita.
Yeah, well, we have a neighbor in the north, China. China has reached a GDP of 19 plus trillion dollars. We are at 3.1 or 3.2, 3.4, I don't know, whatever, maybe 4. Some people are saying 4, I don't know, whatever it is. In other words, a neighbor of ours up in the north, which had all the same problems as us, which has reached a GDP 5 times India's or 6 times India's. So all that I would humbly request our political leaders is to study China very, very carefully and then say what are the good things that we can learn from China and implement it here so that India too becomes, India too advances at the same pace as China, and India too becomes become a nation that has reduced the poverty of its people.
One answer to that could be China of the 80s and 90s and 2000s, early 2000s, was really open in nature. You yourself have worked in an industry which is outsourcing services for a long time now. India is still not truly both capital account and current account convertible, which makes it hard for businesses like this to truly thrive. Do Do you think we are at risk for over-regulation? Do you think over-regulation is curtailing the animal spirits of entrepreneurs in India today?
No, there is a difference between China and India. We were a colonized country for 1000 plus years, starting with whatever Alauddin Khilji or whoever came around 980, whatever it is, to 1947. Our destiny was under the control of foreigners who did not identify themselves with our country. So it is very difficult for us to compare with China, which did not go through this kind of stuff. And second thing is that we we have a different model of governance. Okay? We are a democracy, at least in voting, and therefore, it's not that easy. It's not that easy for the, the, for the government to push through what it believes is the best best methods of increasing the prosperity. So this is a very complex issue, but what we need to do is, in some way, all the political parties come together, and each political party contribute a couple of intellectuals from their party, and they form a committee, and then they all sit together and then invite a few successful, well experienced academicians and corporate leaders and all, and then say what are the practical solutions that we can come out with so that we move up